we have some massive signings potentially coming to the Colorado Avalanche as they look to load up for yet another Stanley Cup run next season. There are two players in particular that I like the most and that the Avalanche should absolutely go for as they look to stay competitive. I've heard reports about these players from other teams and why they should pick them up, and that has led me to just basically assume, yeah, we should do that before they do. Now, let's get right into it. But before I do, you already know we're Avs Digest, your number one stop for all of your Avs news. What is up, Avs Nation? If you don't know us already, go ahead and subscribe and you won't regret it. But let's get right into it. My favorite player that the Avalanche should acquire this offseason is Marco Rossi. Marco Rossi is a young top six center with obviously a very good breakout season with 60 points and 24 goals. Now, you might say, well, he's small. He's 5'9". He is not small, he's short. That is a very important distinction when it comes to Marco Rossi. He's a short guy. He's about Sam Girard's height, but he is absolutely not like Samuel Girard in any other way. He's 192 pounds and he is strong. That is not a player who's small. That is not a player who is afraid to hit. He absolutely is fearless on the ice and plays like a big player. The only thing is he's just 5'9". So there's a little bit of a misconception about his height right there. But like I said, he's a young guy and he's currently with the Minnesota Wild as a restricted free agent. So he's not exactly a guy that the Avalanche can just sign on free agency day. He is a guy that the Avalanche could potentially offer sheet for a pretty good salary. The way offer sheets work, if you guys don't know, if a player is a restricted free agent, he actually has restricted rights when it comes to his free agency. He can't just hit the open market and choose whatever team he wants. He actually has to kind of sign with his current team, unless, of course, he requests a trade. The only other difference is with the restricted free agent, other teams can actually send him an offer sheet and say, we'll pay you this salary. It's probably going to be more for teams that are in cap troubles, and the Minnesota Wild seemingly don't want to pay Marco Rossi a lot of money. This is actually the report I was talking about. It comes from a Devils fan talking about why they should acquire Marco Rossi. Now, I don't know why the Devils fan is talking about center depth. I think the Devils have enough of it, but you know what? That's not for me to question. This isn't the Devils channel. This is the Avs channel. And let's talk about why the Avs should acquire him. Now, there's some of these misconceptions. You can see, obviously, there's the small argument, but I thought that this guy made another good point. Well, the Wild obviously would want to keep their restricted free agent. The Wild have all this cap space they're going to have in the offseason now that they're not having a lot of the dead cap that they did have tied up. They've got it to sign all the agents they want. So obviously they're going to throw money at Marco Rossi, right? Well, not true. You can actually see that Marco Rossi seemingly might be looking at $7 million, a price that the Avalanche could definitely offer him via offer sheet. And in that respect, their GM, being Bill Guerin, also really likes his big, strong guys. Marco Rossi really isn't like that. And even when Marco Rossi was demoted in the playoffs to a lesser role, he still played well, which is definitely the argument of, well, he's just not a playoff player. I mean, that 5'9", that's going to hurt you in the playoffs. Didn't really hurt Marco Rossi all that much. And he also rejected a 5x5 deal earlier for the Minnesota Wild. So Marco Rossi is not as much of a locked up thing as you would think. Marco Rossi is not a guy that might likely not stay in the Minnesota Wild system. You can see in these stats, he was very good in the AHL. First 19 games he played for the Minnesota Wild in his technically first full season, he only had one assist. It wasn't a great start, but you can see year on year, he keeps getting better. His first full season with 82 games, 40 points. His second full season, 60 points. And you can see he hasn't missed a game in a full 2 seasons. That is very good for a young player that the Avalanche might want to acquire, especially with how injury-ridden the Avs have been. Getting a player who is known for being healthy is a very encouraging thing for this organization to do. Now, obviously, we love Marco Rossi. I think the Avalanche should try and offer sheet him. I think they should do everything to get Marco Rossi as their 2C without having to give up more assets. However, there is another player which is extremely interesting to me, and that is Vladislav Gavrikov. Now, Gavrikov is a defenseman, and yet again, played a full 82 games, has a height of 6'3", and is not too old just yet. Now, he's not the biggest hitter in the world, but is good at blocking shots and is very defensively responsible. Now, Gavrikov is actually basically up, and he is a full free agent. He is not a restricted free agent like Marco Rossi. He is a free agent. You can see 6'3", 220 pounds. This is a guy that I would absolutely love to replace Josh Manson with. If you trade out Josh Manson and pick up Gavrikov, you basically have a better version of Josh Manson who's actually here and plays in the regular season. Now, that to me is a very intriguing player. You can see his history right here. He used to play for the Columbus Blue Jackets. He was actually a 6th round pick and made his way to the NHL. And you can see in the last few seasons, he's been pretty good, despite some injury-ridden seasons, which aren't really fair to talk about. He was actually traded in the middle of that 22-23 seasons. But other than that, he's been a very solid defenseman. He's good offensively and actually is pretty smart defensively. Now, how does this all work for the Avalanche's cap situation? Obviously, I don't like how much the Avs spend on their defense. I think that when you look at the 2022 Cup run, you see a Colorado Avalanche team that was not paying very much for their defense. You got to remember, Devon Taves was making less money. Josh Manson didn't have that outrageous contract he has right now. And Sam Girard wasn't even here. So that $9 million second pairing didn't even exist at the time. But what did exist was good offensive depth for the Colorado Avalanche. And since then, we've seen plenty of defensive depth and less offensive depth. And the result is the Avalanche haven't gotten very far in the last 3 seasons. So, in my opinion, the Avalanche should not invest more in their defense. But if you were to nuke the second pairing and get rid of Sam Girard and Josh Manson, then you could see a potential thing of bringing in Gavrikov to make up as a good, strong point. And then you put Sam Malinski next to Gavrikov, and that's your second pair. Frankly, Sam Malinski has played well next to a big, physical, defensively responsible guy. So a guy like Gavrikov and Sam Malinski could be a cheaper second pairing, even if you have to pay Gavrikov somewhat like probably $7 million or maybe $6.5 million. He makes 5.7 annual average right now, and he's looking for a contract increase, but you could make the cap work under those circumstances. It's definitely an intriguing possibility when it comes to those two free agents. And really, for me, I think the Avalanche should prioritize offense more and more. I think Marco Rossi is a perfect fit. He's a good skater. He plays with heart. He is just basically everything you'd want in a second line center, who I think would be perfect for the Colorado Avalanche, especially if all you have to do is offer sheet him. If you want to remake the defense and then invest a lot of money into Gavrikov and then uplift a guy like Sam Malinski, like I was saying, that is actually cheaper than the current second pairing the Avalanche have. And something to remember about the second pairing is Josh Manson and Sam Girard can't even play together. They don't play together well at all. They actually don't most of the time, and every time they do, it's disastrous. So, remaking this Colorado Avalanche roster is, in my opinion, the first step towards contending for the Avs in the future. I think that the Avs should correct the mistake they made with Nazem Kadri and give Marco Rossi proper second line center money. I would honestly prefer Marco Rossi over re-signing Brock Nelson. Brock Nelson is old and his play has seemingly started to fall off a little bit offensively. So I would rather have the young 23-year-old Marco Rossi. But that's my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. Avs Digest. This is your number one stop shop for all of your Avs news. But let me know, Avs Nation, what are your free agency targets? You're probably going to say Sam Bennett, and I love Sam Bennett too. But if we're being realistic, what are your free agency targets? I'd love to know. So have a good one, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.